I got a few things to do today, so I'm just going to run this down real quick. Hopefully give you guys some more explanation of what's going on in the crypto space and why crypto is unstoppable. All right, it's real simple. I'm taking my entire business model that I was running, which is an 8-week challenge that would later introduce people into street workout, which is a brand new sport, as we are creating the infrastructure for creating what's called the Amateur Development League, so that we could prepare athletes for the World Calisthenics Organization, the highest level of competition in calisthenics. So you need to understand what's going on. And in order for me to catch you up to speed and teach you why it's so important that you get yourself involved with some of these projects, but more importantly, that you understand the ecosystem of why crypto is here to stay. You see, I began this project with the idea of helping people get paid for working out. It's that simple. You've seen it in the movies or in the series Black Mirror. You know, a world where all people do is work out to create energy. But this goes deeper than that. This is about decentralizing health and wellness. Trust me, I have an entire plan for that. I've been planning this for the last 10 years. Finally, I can launch this vision with complete confidence, a team behind me, plus we are currently up and running, rewarding individuals with XDC for their completion of their 8-week program. What really matters to you though is why XDC, why crypto, and why now? Well, you see, crypto is here to stay. The only way that there could be a relationship between the earth, organic matter, and digital assets, which is electronic, fake stuff that just helps us as humans communicate through technology, had to be these digital assets. All right, so I want to start here, where the earth really has two things, either resources or life. This is it, right? We have these resources that we could leverage as humans in order to help us kind of create what is called a market of trade and commerce, right? So we exchange these goods as a society, and as a world, global commerce is expanding, right? We have to be able to kind of trade without feeling like one asset is worth more than the other. And if a party exchanges one for the other, both parties have to leave that transaction happy. And more importantly, both parties have to be able to record the changes in their own businesses or personal economies, so that way they can keep track of the data that's helping them expand or continue to maintain proper management of their business or resources. So this is where it all really starts. And you need to understand this, because as we keep going, crypto is unstoppable for that reason. At the point of exchange, two parties have to agree on a value. What tends to happen is at the point of settlement, that's when we record things on a ledger. People don't understand it, but a ledger is kind of like a notebook. Every page is a transaction. Every page or every line is another transaction. And every time that this notebook finishes, it creates another block. See, this is a blue notebook, right? So if I have a blue notebook and the next block that is being recorded turns out to be a red block, they can't stack on top of each other. It has to be a blue block. This is what makes this so nice, right? That unless it's a blue block, that means it's from the same blockchain. That means a validator or a node has to be able to decentralize the process to a process of distributed ledger technology, which is what makes it possible for us to be able to transform the world today, because it is what kind of allows us to create trust in this new technology. You see, distributed ledger technology is a new way that we can enforce trust through different networks by decentralizing these transactions. Instead of one central party being able to manage and oversee everything, we have multiple nodes, validators running to decentralize these transactions. So not just one party gets control of the environment, not just one server, but we have multiple things going. But the point here is that because every country in the world prefers a different currency, these are called fiat currency or currency units of a specific fiat, what has to happen is there has to be a way for that country's specific fiat to be pegged to an organic mineral that will give it value in correlation to its relationship to the earth. Meaning, if if humans choose to give a certain mineral on earth a specific value, and in our case, we know that gold has been chosen as the standard, hence the gold standard. So what's happening here is that because individuals have been acquiring gold, but we're not currently on a gold standard, gold hasn't been that important. This is why they say, hey, take advantage of the opportunity, because one day gold will become the standard again. What that means is that gold becomes a tier 1 asset again. So long story short, all these countries are going to give their own fiat currencies a specific unit measurement or value in correlation to gold, whether it's the ounce or the kilo. So if, let's say, the US dollar, which previously was a tier 1 asset that knocked the gold off of the tier 1 asset position, this is what changed everything. When Nixon came around, he said, hey, gold is no longer a tier 1 asset, only the US dollar will become a tier 1 asset. So what that did is that we were able to then start printing out money without having to have a pegged ratio. This means that, back in the day, gold wasn't too expensive, but it had a price, if I'm not mistaken, that they bought in at around $80 or $40. So that's when they bought in. But now we're going to a price of, if we fast forward, we were about $2K an ounce last time I bought some gold. And now it's dropping a little bit because in 2 days, on the 28th of June, we're going to go ahead and see a change in regulations in which this is no longer the case, because gold will become a tier 1 asset again. And that's what's going on June 28th, that gold becomes a tier 1 asset again. The US dollar is no longer the standard in the sense of what really matters. What really matters is gold. And gold is important because then every fiat can have a specific value pegged to it specific to that. So in this case, the most important thing that we got to think about if we're going to talk about US dollars becomes, what is the number, the value, right? Because here, the amount of world money based on the world agreed upon value of tier 1 assets. You see, in order for us to be able to have global trade, we need to recognize a country's production, right, or productivity, and compare that versus their debt. All right, how much they are going into credits. The important thing you got to understand is that this relationship, GDP versus debt, will give each country a ranking from which the IMF, via the FSB, the Financial Stability Board, ranks these countries through the Financial Stability Board in order to then give the IMF a set of rankings from which these countries are being divided either into G7, G20, and the rest of the world. Now, this is important because as global trade continues to happen, we suffered a tremendous mistake or kind of mishap or crisis in 2008. When in 2008, what happened was that the market was shorted, the housing market crashed. And the reason for that was that because of these mortgage loans, the triple Bs and single Bs and double Bs, they were all compacted into these pretend triple A mortgage bonds. And really, only one person could really see how to get ahead on this, and that's how we got insurance on these things. In case they failed, he would make 10 to 20 times the amount. Well, this is the same thing that's about to happen, because what's happened since here is that there is not enough money to cover the world debt. There is just not enough money. When we talk about how much money is there available, well, the trillions that we owe are not going to be able to be covered by the amount of current money that exists. So the amount of money that exists right now will never cover it. So what has to happen is we have to have a gold reevaluation. All right, so what's going to happen is, in my opinion, once again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is just the way I've been putting the pieces together in my head to be able to give me some clarity about what's going on, because the more that I think about it, this shit's fucked up. But it's actually kind of cool because it gives us a chance, just like what happened in 2008, for those that are thinking about what's going on, maybe we can spread the message, maybe we can come together and create a nice little picture. But here's what I imagine. Because there is so much world debt, we're going to have to reevaluate the gold. So that gold, let's say, becomes maybe, I don't know, 15K an ounce. That will give the kilo an insane price, right? 32 ounces or something like that times 15. Now, in that amount of gold, right, let's say that value times the entire world supply of gold. And now that we know that and I'm going to put it up here, crypto's unstoppable because the London Bullion Market Exchange, LBMA, Association, they are going to go ahead and have to make a big change because they got caught up with the Vatican, right? And these two have been working together as well, and with the central banks and the Federal Reserve. And what happened is that the Vatican was holding a lot of gold, right? And where was it holding it from? Well, way back World War II, we had a lot of these different situations where a lot of gold was being hitting, a lot of transactions were being done through the church in gold. There was a lot of gold being stolen from different civilizations because religion has always imposed themselves so that they could take everybody's wealth. Hey, look, I'm not talking about anybody's beliefs. I'm talking about the idea or the cult of religion, right? Because what you believe in is completely separate than what I believe in. However, I am not addressing that. I'm addressing the front. Just like Bitcoin is a branding for digital asset, well, religion is branding for controlling of the mind through giving people something to rely on, instead of letting them question what life is all about and letting them discover it on their own. It is a structure that helps many who are lost, and that's why I'm trying to provide here a structure for many who are lost on the crypto space, because due to the fact that in order for two individuals to exchange something, they have to come up on an agreed value. And if I bring this pen to trade with somebody else, but that person does not accept pens, I must bring an item that that person will agree on, because value, it has to have legal recognition. People need to understand this. Not only does it need to be organic, but it needs to have legal recognition. And this is why organic matter, which is gold, has legal recognition that this is the gold standard. Because you see, a world without organic, legal, recognized tier 1 assets would lead to a world where we could just keep printing out of thin air. The most important thing here is that if a country is going to have a preferred value of exchanging, meaning if they choose to exchange it in, pesos versus dollars, well, they could do that. But every single gold ounce is going to have a specific amount of currency units tied to that specific fiat to represent the equivalent amount of value. And that's what we're talking about here, because global trade and global remittances is the problem. You see, every time people from the US send money anywhere or anywhere in the world from one place to another, money is being sent back and forth. Those intermediary parties, those parties that are participating in sending the money back and forth, they built their entire business model on taking a fraction of your money in order to send your money. And then they take more money at the receiving end in order to give you your money. And so they ended up taking a lot of your money in the process of you sending money. This is what's going on. RippleNet is the brand new business platform that Ripple has created, the company. And RippleNet basically provides liquidity for central banks and other bank institutions to be able to send money back and forth and around themselves. But they tested this product through the people first. It was not meant to be a retail token. It is meant to be a banking coin. It is meant to be for institutional use only, not retail investors. But they needed to prove that people like ourselves could send money back and forth between countries and save money, therefore continue to utilize and adopt these cryptocurrencies. Because global remittances is all about the cross cross-border payment. This is all about cross-border payment that provides micropayments, instant payments, and instant settlements. Settlement is the key, all right? This is why this is the second one. You see, if we can agree on a certain medium of exchange, XRP, and XRP is tied to the value of gold, I don't know, maybe an ounce or maybe 1 kilo. What happens here is if we agree on that, and every XRP ever created, which is to simulate all of the money in the world, is going to run through Ripple Net, which is the liquidity, right? It's going to provide liquidity for the banks through Ripple Net, right? It's a network. So we're going to come in through Ripple Net. We're going to provide liquidity to every single institution. And what's going to happen is it's going to provide instant settlement in whatever preferred country or choice of fiat that they may want to use. Plus, it'll make it easier for global trade and remittances because we'll be able to send money faster without issues. Plus, the world will be able to finally have a new agreed upon value. Let's say that if 1 ounce is to be 15K, if we were to do this, it would remove or erase the total world debt because there would be so much money to be represented now in the value of XRPs. You see, like XRP can't stay at this price because it needs to move so much money around. Right now it's staying low because all the money in the world is not flowing yet through XRP's Ripple Net. The moment it does, and then it branches off everywhere else. Because in order to have a world of, accessibility to liquidity in the entire world, there has to be approved or recognized value. And that's why they have created the ISO 20022 tokens. You know, those that understand what this is can understand why the amount of world money is going to be moving through these tokens. And these tokens that are ISO certified, that means that they have been approved by the World 3C, which is the worldwide consortium that basically says that distributed ledger technology along with the interledger protocol will help the entire world create the internet of value. This here creates the internet of value because distributed ledger technology, which is what's going to decentralize these transactions through many validators all over the world so that not one central entity can have it, or the information can't be hacked just because one central party. No, this is quantum security. This is an open source technology. This means many can develop on it. The XRP ledger is one of the greatest things created, and we will be launching our token on the XRP ledger. All right, just in case you didn't know that, we are bringing it to the XRP ledger, so stay tuned. But you will not be able to buy this governance token. You must earn it. And I'll elaborate more on that later, but trust is the thing that we're trying to build here. And there's no way I could trust you with one of my tokens unless you prove to me that you've earned the knowledge necessary to earn one. So, in order to continue with that concept, same thing applies here. Governance, all right? Because when it comes to the governance of the Internet 3.0, who's gonna run the Internet? In order to decentralize the new internet, Definity, all right, this partnership right here, Definity has created what's called an ICP token. And the ICP token, or the Internet Computer Protocol, is going to be what creates the new internet. Internet of value being ran on the Definity. And this token, the ICP, is going to be directly correlated to the IMF. And if you could follow what I've been saying, the IMF collects rankings of countries based upon their GDP to debt ratio, giving them certain rankings which were approved by the FSB and the BIS. And this in order to give levels of countries, first, second, and third. What this means is that every single time, and I believe it's every 5 years, that there's a review of the number of SDR. That means special drawing rights. Every time that there is a new review for these, a new asset will be able to come in. I believe, don't take me on this too seriously, but I believe that 2 tokens will be added to this soon. I believe that ICP and XRP will be added to the SDR basket of currencies. Now, what is an SDR basket of currencies? Well, remember how I said that gold is the only it's the only tier 1 asset? Well, gold is now out of the question, but we got to go ahead and see where the dollar went, right? And the dollar went right here. The US dollar, the yen, the renminbi, we have the pound, and I'm missing one. Shit, I'm gonna regret this later. But I'm missing one, and I hope that it hits me. But we have 5 different assets there that are gonna be able to go ahead and currently provide exchangeable liquidity in return for an SDR. All right, so the IMF is now the new World Bank, basically saving everybody from world debt. Now that the world is completely indebted, well, somebody had to come in and say, here, we're going to save you. So this was the IMF. Created over 50 years ago, Klaus Schwab has been working diligently to transition the world to the new world order, quote unquote, which is what they're pursuing, which is basically tracking all the money in the world, because they don't want to have a world where they can't see what transactions you are doing. And you see, that's the advantage of going with XDC. XDC is a hybrid blockchain that provides you with both permissionless and permission transactions. That's a point that we're going to address at a different time, and there's plenty of information in the internet right now for you to be able to figure it out. But the idea is we are building on XDC because it is the R3 or Corda, right? This is the network, another notebook. If you remember, there are many notebooks, and this is one of the most important notebooks because it is dealing with all the smart contracts in the world. So in order to create accessibility to liquidity, they had to have what's called ISO tokens. ISO tokens will either provide what's called liquidity, or they will provide what's called utility. Now, utility can be one of 3 things: smart contracts, governance, right? Governance, or participation. That's the way I understand it. So if I'm wrong, hey, I'm wrong. But the idea is there is utility behind certain tokens, and that could be that it's a smart contract, meaning you could enforce a contract of if this, then that, and 2 parties or wallets would immediately be engaged in a contract where nobody else can interfere. It is immediately executed and it's immutable, right? So there's a lot of benefits here. But what we want to think about is, how do we get access to this liquidity if they don't know our identity? And this is why we have to talk about the next level, which is Global ID. Global ID is a company created by Greg Kidd. And Greg Kidd was one of the main investors in Ripple. When everything first started and RippleNet first took off, Greg Kidd used to work at the Federal Reserve, and he himself said, which is what sold me onto this project more than anything, and I need you to understand it, because this is where everything started for me. There's 3 things: the token, the protocol, the blockchain. The token is a price that's going to mislead you, because if you don't know a company's intentions or a network's intentions or timeline, you will never understand why the price of a token is a certain amount at a certain time. You need to be patient and understand what makes the technology different. In this case, distributed ledger technology was what made XRP different than Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right. Now we're going to have a new 4th layer, quote unquote, which is the Internet of Value being created by the combination of the distributed ledger and the interledger protocol, along with the AI computer of Definity. Because at the end of the day, there will be 2 things: 1 AI supercomputer and 1 blockchain. All right. This means that when this happens, 1 AI supercomputer can just look here for all the data that it needs in order to give you a simple, tangible number. Remember, the New World Order has been talked about for many years, since 1984. That book that speaks on, a boot stamp on the forehead for the rest of your life, pretty much. It's the idea that we're gonna have, the marking of the beast, basically a number. Well, this number will be coming from everything that we do as people. This could be something like what's happening here with participation. A lot of people forget that when it comes to participating in these new world systems like the internet, if you use, beta, basic attention token, and you go ahead and use their browser and you earn BATs, well, yes, because of your participation, utilizing a certain software or such, your data is recorded in a certain way, information is being sent to people in a certain way, and by your participation in this network, you are basically giving up your data but earning rewards. In this case, a digital asset that you could later on exchange for financial wealth or for fiat in any of these different countries. The most important thing you got to remember is that if you want to become your own bank, you need to go to the root of the problem. All right? Go to the seed. Go to where it all starts. And it all starts with RippleNet and understanding that the relationship that RippleNet and Definity are about to create is going to give birth to a new project that Codius is putting together in order to create the Amazon Quantum database, Quantum Ledger database. All right. So everything that's happening here is you want to be able to recognize that it's all going to run on the Ripple blockchain. That means that it uses the token XRP to get all the information onto the Ripple blockchain. Now, in this blockchain, then the Internet of Value will be able to go ahead and review all of the information. But when it comes to derivatives and when it comes to commodities, you need to think of Codius, because this is where the Amazon Quantum Data Ledger base, I think that's what it's called, the Quantum Ledger Database, I think it's what it's called. But this is from Amazon Web Services and Amazon, right? They have created this with collaboration of IBM. They created what is the exchange of commodities and derivatives at quantum speed. So I need you to think about these three things working together in the future, because this is the future of the internet. You cannot stop crypto. All you could do is imagine a world without crypto. So let me explain it to you. In a world without crypto, there is no privacy because the banks are able to see every single one of your transactions. Unless you own cash or metals, you cannot do transactions that the banks don't see. Then, if you don't have liquidity tokens, basically you're dealing in fiat. That means it costs money to print money, it costs money to send money, it costs money to receive money. Next, if there is no fixed number of assets, meaning there is no gold standard, there is no way that you can stop them from printing money out of thin air. So this is why crypto is unstoppable, because once there are liquidity tokens, ISO certified tokens, what's going to happen is that the cost of sending money, making money, or receiving money is going to be incredibly lowered significantly, to the point that people will not have to send $10 and receive maybe 5 or 6. They'll receive the entire 10. That could change everything. The banks themselves now have to think of a brand new structure of how we're going to go ahead and go from this old fiat money into this new digital asset world without losing control or our position in the markets. So this is why I'm telling you, you need to think 10 steps ahead so that you can understand why crypto is here to stay. Because the only real value that matters here, guys, the only real value is that fuel or energy, just like my fire. You can't stop my fire. There's no value on that. But people pay me well to be able to re-energize them, to fire them up, to make them of value, to heal them. Then you have a digital asset that is scarce, That means it has a limited finite amount that is meant to be used for a certain amount of time. I want you to think 100 billion XRP for the next 50 to 75 years for the entire world. That's why it was created. Is that going to be enough coins to be able to satisfy world trade for the next 50 to 75 years? Yeah. 21 million will not do it. 21 million was simply an introduction. This is only an introduction to what is the new type of digital assets. Digital assets that carry value and encrypted messages, because that's what we are doing here. We are removing the entire SWIFT platform because it only sends message from banks to banks. We don't want to send messages. We want to send value. So if Bank A wants to send to Bank B, they send a message that already carries value, and that's called XRP. Now, the amount of value that it'll carry, right now, it's only 60 cents. But down the road, you will see the value that it carries is much, much higher. That's why XRP was created to be broken down into drops. Because when you have drops, you can then purchase a drop or two. And this is why I'm telling you guys, they play the lingo game to psych you out. But when you start using this lingo, meaning, hey, I want to buy 2 drops of XRP, you're buying drops of XRP. Think about it, liquidity, drops. They want you to think that you are buying water. This is the new piping and the new water for the new infrastructure of the new financial system. The quantum financial system is here. You need to pay attention to what we discussed today. And if you need to review this content, pause it, rewind it, and take some notes, you're more than welcome to do that. There's a lot on the board, only because I'm running out of time and I need to make sure you grasp these concepts. But remember, stock of ownership, meaning if you own an asset or if you own part of a company, that ownership has to be transitioned into the blockchain. If you own a house, that ownership has to be transitioned into the blockchain. Otherwise, the AI computer will not be able to find it on the blockchain, and therefore, that's not your property. I need you to be thinking about these things. Because if I'm doing you a service or a favor, I should charge you for it, right? But there needs to be a return on my energy or time that I've invested into whatever we were doing to help you, so that way I can walk away feeling happy, returning back to the exchange. Because if there's an exchange and somebody walks away not very happy, this is where emotions start to cause aggression. So you need to be mindful of this, because every party has to be happy at the end of an exchange in order to avoid aggression or negative emotions. So as we go on, I need you to think, this whole world, this crypto stuff is leading us to the creator economy. Those that create, those that share their networks, businesses, ideas, art, innovation, or infrastructure will be able to go ahead and grow because they are providing value to a society that doesn't need any more technological development, but we are now doing what is called a social reconstruction. We are reconstructing the entire infrastructure of what is society and humanity, because culture has shifted down a negative path, and it's our job to bring it back. This is why I'm taking full ownership and sharing with you all this knowledge for free, to make sure that you can understand what is going on. To make sure that I fulfill my mission, I've started this project that pays you in crypto to work out. So if you want to learn more about it, send me a message, click the link in the bio, and go ahead and get started today. You can earn XDC for finishing your 8-week transformation program. The most important thing that you need to understand, though, is this. Do not keep your crypto on exchanges, otherwise it's not your crypto. Find a way to get all your crypto offline so that you too can become your own bank. Down the road, I'll share with you some more tips. I thank you for your time, energy, and attention. I hope you got some good notes and information out of this last little lesson that we did here, but we'll see you on the next one.